This is the AB4WS radio show. Every week, bringing you the exciting amateur radio news and information happening in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana areas.
The AB4WS radio show can be found on the Apple Podcast app or your favorite podcast application. And now also available on the AB4WS radio show YouTube channel. On October 11th, the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club held a Parks on the Air event at the Big Bone Lick State Historic Site, US 3779, where they had several stations set up. Many of the club members showed up, as well as the general public who had never experienced HF radio or Parks on the Air before, and really learned a lot about this fascinating part of the hobby. Several different antenna designs were set up, as well as several different model radios, which allowed members to get some idea of the advantages and disadvantages of certain radios and antenna design. A couple of the members in attendance have already registered for the upcoming testing session to upgrade their licenses. The stations also work several different bands and modes, which also introduce the differences in bands as well as the different modes such as sideband, CW, and digital FT8. Several hundred contacts were made by the members activating a park, and several DX entities as well as several different states were worked. This is not the first time the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club has held a Parks on the Air event, and each time it gets a big turnout. But more importantly, those in attendance comment that they really learned a lot about amateur radio, HF radio, propagation, antennas, radio logging, and other things that they had not experienced before. These comments and stories have verified what an important event this is for the club. Other clubs interested in expanding the interest of their members might consider this type of event. It is important for everyone to realize the importance of learning and instruction aspect of the event, especially for relatively new hams with less experience. Everyone had a great time and said they learned a lot from the event. Does your club have a newsletter? Well, if they do, why not submit it for the ARRL Club Newsletter Contest? This is a part of the ARRL Year of the Club campaign. A club newsletter keeps members informed on news and upcoming events and keeps them interested in between meetings and activities, helping to teach them about ham radio to help increase their knowledge and skill in ham radio and technology, or even make them laugh, remember, or set an operating goal, or perhaps introduce them to a new mode of communication that they have never tried before. The ARRL wants to see what your club is doing with the mix of information that can go into a newsletter. For the information on how your club can submit their newsletter in the contest, go to arrl.org/club-newsletter-contest. October 17th through the 19th is the Scouts Jamboree on the Air, which provides an opportunity for millions of scouts around the world to meet on the air using ham radio. Listen out for the Scouts on the Air and give them a nice QSO for their log. October 18th is the Monix Group South meeting at 6 p.m. at the Donato's Pizza on Donamar Drive in Bellevue, Kentucky. Anyone interested in radio monitoring their scanners or programming their scanner is welcome to attend. October 18th and 19th is Support Your Parks Weekend for the Parks on the Air to encourage operators to make their way to the park and activate a park for an enjoyable day in the fresh air playing radio in the park. Are you interested in the new world of Meshtastic? Well, on Monday, October 20th at 7 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will be meeting at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. The club will have a presentation on A Beginner's Guide to Meshtastic by David, KY4DM. It's open to anyone interested in Meshtastic. If you are interested in Meshtastic, come on out and learn all about this new form of communication. Starting on October 21st, the Logan County Amateur Radio Club will be holding classes on getting your general class amateur radio license. Classes will cost $30 and will be held at the Logan County Search and Rescue Building, 101 Thurston Drive. The classes will be held October 21st, 22nd, 28th, 29th, and November 11th and 12th, each day starting at 5:30 p.m. and ending at 8 p.m. For more information, contact Corey Page. A free weekly live amateur radio general class licensing course on Zoom will begin on Thursday, October 30th and run through Thursday, January 8th. 9 sessions with no class on Thanksgiving or Christmas. The 3-hour sessions will start at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. These classes have been held for years and sponsored by the Amateur Radio Club of the National Electronics Museum. Participants in the course should have or be studying for their amateur radio technician class license. Those wishing to sign up should email roland.anders@comcast.net. A heads-up reminder, the Okian Amateur Radio Society meeting on November 4th will be held at the Laughlin Church in the Nazarene, 335 West Wyoming Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio, due to the normal location being used for Election Day activities. Tim Lawrence, W4TWL, is looking for amateur radio operator volunteers to assist with communications for their Honor Run Half Marathon on November 9th, 2025. The run starts and ends at the Florence Yaw Water Tower. Volunteers need to report at 6 a.m. and will be finished by around 11 a.m. This is a great event to volunteer for, even if you've never done something like this before. First of all, the proceeds go to funding the Honor Flight Cincinnati, where veterans get to visit the various memorials in Washington, D.C. Usually this event yields enough donations to fill one plane load of veterans for the Honor Flight. Second, this is an easy, no-stress event to get your feet wet on working a public service event. So if you're still not comfortable with the idea, Tim can pair you up with someone who has done the event before at a station to help you gain experience for next year and for other events. If you would like to give it a try, reach out to Tim, W4TWL, at W4TWL@yahoo.com. November 15th through the 17th is the ARRL November Sweepstakes event, and the Okian Amateur Radio Society is continuing their tradition and participating in this event. Eric, N8YC, is again hosting the event and has operators scheduled for the event, but invite anyone interested to come on out and stop in. For more information, reach out to Eric, N8YC. On November 22nd from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. is the Ohio Aries Conference at the OSU COTC Warner Library Building, 219 University Drive in Newark, Ohio. Registration is necessary. For more information, go to aries.unioncountyohio.us. The ARRL wants everyone to know that because of the government shutdown, the FCC is not issuing licenses, updating licenses, or issuing FRN numbers. But you can still take any amateur radio exam. Volunteer examiners will still give exams and issue certificates of successful completion to you. The ARRL will have all this successful exam information in queue to send to the FCC when they open their doors up. If you do not have an FRN, and since the FCC cannot issue it, VEs have been instructed on how to allow you to take an exam and get your successful completion so that when the FCC reopens, you can again get your FRN and work towards the FCC issuing your license. For more information, go to ARRL.org.
Repeater news.
Are you looking for the most up-to-date list of repeaters in the greater Cincinnati area? Well, I have an Excel spreadsheet where I've listed repeaters that are active in the area, separated by tabs for each band or mode, so you can easily look for just DMR repeaters or 2-meter analog repeaters and so on. The list includes 2 meters, 220, 440, 6 meters, D-Star, DMR, C4FM, P25, and some other classifications. Every time I update the file, I include the date and the file name so that you know you have the latest update. To download the file, go to the AB4WS Radio Show Facebook page and go to the file section and download the file. If you're not on Facebook, email me at ab4ws.radio@gmail.com and I can email you the latest file. If you see any errors, problems, additions, or corrections, email that information to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Hamfest.
October 25th is the Hazard, Kentucky Hamfest at 1700 North Main Street in Hazard, Kentucky. For more information, contact Johnny, KY4JLB at JLB741@yahoo.com. November 2nd is the 2025 MARC Hamfest at MAPS, which will feature over 100 vendor tables full of electronic gear of all sorts at the Military Aviation Preservation Society, 2260 International Parkway, North Canton, Ohio, just off I-77. For more information, go to w8np.net. On November 8th, the Grant Amateur Radio Club will once again hold the famous Georgetown Hamfest at the ABCAP building, 406 West Plum Street in Georgetown, Ohio. Lots of door prizes will be given away. An amateur radio exam session will be held by the Highland Amateur Radio Association, talking on the 146.73 repeater with a PL tone of 162.2. For more information, contact Ken, KD8FKU, at KD8FKU@gmail.com. On December 6th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the Fulton County Winter Hamfest at the Delta American Legion Post 373 at 5939 Ohio State Route 109 and County Road F in Delta, Ohio. For more information, go to k8bxq.org.
Are you looking to upgrade your license? Do you have someone else that's interested in the hobby? Here are some upcoming exam opportunities.
The Milford Amateur Radio Club holds amateur radio testing on the third Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. at the Miami Township Civic Center, 6101 Meyer Drive in Milford, Ohio. Please pre-register at milfordhamradio.org. The Dayton Amateur Radio Association has exams frequently. For their exam schedule, email exams.w8bi@gmail.com. On October 20th at 5:30 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. You must register by going to hamstudy.org/sessions/NKY-VE. On October 25th at 10 a.m., the Wilderness Road Amateur Radio Club will host an amateur radio exam session at the American Legion, Post 46 in Danville, Kentucky. On October 28th at 6 p.m., the K4TG VE team will host an amateur radio exam session at the Anderson County Extension Building. Use the rear entrance in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. On November the 8th at 10 a.m., the Bluegrass Amateur Radio Society will host an amateur radio exam session at the Red Cross Building in Lexington, Kentucky. On November 17th at 5:30 p.m., the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. You must register by going to hamstudy.org/sessions/NKY-VE. On December 11th, the DeForest Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 6 p.m. at the Adams County Emergency Management Office, 31 Logan's Lane in West Union, Ohio. Please pre-register by emailing k8weh@k8weh@awrl.net or on the k8ge.net website. On December 13th, the Scott County Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio testing session at the Georgetown Police Department in Georgetown, Kentucky. Special thanks to this week's content contributors: WB8VNH, KY4GW, WB8YYS, KD8ZLD, K9HIO, N8LAR, K4NKU.
If you have something you think other amateur radio operators in the area would be interested in, send the information or your recorded audio file attached in an email to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Covering your amateur radio news and information in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana tri-state area, this is Jack Prindle, AB4WS in Big Bone, Kentucky.